Hi, good morning, and welcome to the February 4th, 2026 City Planning Commission meeting. The commissioners look forward to hearing your cases as we understand every project is important and unique. In addition, we want to make sure we address all of the docketed items individually with the attention they need to build consensus between the applicant, public, and city staff. Our meeting will follow the advertised docket. We will hear the cases in the order they are listed, beginning with the consent agenda, followed by the regular docketed items. Excuse me. The commissioners believe we can reach consensus by being brief yet heard. Because our meeting is virtual and recorded, we have time limits for the cases that we hear, which is 5 minutes for staff and 20 minutes for the applicant, plus any questions by the commissioners. When we move to public comment, we will call on those who have joined us, followed by those who have joined us virtually. Public comments are limited to 2 minutes for up to 5 minutes when representing a community association or larger district. Please be brief and limit repetitive comments. Those of you who are joining us virtually, please have be ready to go and have ready to speak. Have your video camera turned on. This helps us make sure we get your testimony. With that, I ask staff to provide any ground rules that we have.
Good morning. I'll describe the testimony procedures for today's hybrid meeting. First, for those joining us online, please know that there are 2 categories of people participating in the meeting, attendees and panelists. Right now, the only panelists are the commission members and city staff. If you are an applicant or a member of the public who would like to testify regarding a case, please use the raise hand function when the case is announced to let staff know you would like to speak. There is a ribbon at the bottom of your Zoom screen with a hand icon. Please click this to raise your hand to request to speak on a case. You will need to accept the promotion to panelist in order to speak. It may appear temporarily as if you have been disconnected, but don't panic. You will reconnect shortly. If you are calling in on a phone line, your screen name appears as your phone number. You can still raise your hand to speak when the case is called by pressing star followed by the number 9. When you are promoted to panelist, the chair would like for you to turn on your camera so that the commission can see you when it is your time to speak. Your microphone needs to be on mute unless you are giving testimony at the appropriate time. When you are called upon, you will be able to share your screen to display exhibits. The chat box is only for questions about the agenda. The merits of each case should not be discussed in the chat box. For everyone joining us today in person, applicants may be seated at the center desk when the case is announced. Members of the public who would like to speak may approach the microphone on the podium located to the left of the seating area when the chair calls for public testimony. If you are in person, there is no need for you to be on the Zoom meeting as well. Joining the meeting in both manners causes a lot of unnecessary feedback and audio disruptions. We ask that you silence or mute all of your electronic devices and be quiet when entering and exiting the hearing room. The Commission has established time limits for all testimony during the meeting. You will be given 2 minutes to testify when speaking as an individual, or 5 minutes if you represent an organization, such as a neighborhood association, HOA, CID, or business association. Those are all of our procedures.
Okay, thank you. Let's begin with consent agenda item C1, and I need to recuse from that one.
So first, item C1, case CD CPC 2023-43, a request to approve an extension of the approval time period for an MPD final plan in District MPD by 1 year on about 18 acres generally located at 7700 North Brighton Avenue. Staff recommends approval without conditions.
Any questions for staff? Seeing none, we'll move to public testimony. Is there anyone from the public wishing to speak about consent docket item number 1?
There are no hands raised online.
All right, then we'll close all public testimony and I'll look for a motion.
Motion to approve docket item C1.
Second.
Been moved and seconded to approve docket item C1. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? Docket item C1 is approved without conditions.
The remainder of the consent docket begins with item C2, case CD CPC 2025-186, a request to approve a preliminary plat creating 72 lots in District SC on about 40 acres generally located at the northwest corner of Northeast 76th Street and North Flintlock Road. Staff recommends approval with conditions. Item C3 3 is case CD CPC 2025-185, a request to approve a preliminary plat creating 132 lots in District SC on about 63 acres, generally located at the southwest corner of Northeast 82nd Terrace and North Booth Avenue. Staff recommends approval with conditions. Item C4 is case CLD Final Plat 2025-36, a request to approve a final plat in District B2-2 on about 2 acres, generally located at the northeast corner of Northeast 86th Terrace and North Indiana Avenue, creating 2 lots for the purposes of a commercial development. Staff recommends approval with conditions. And item C5 is case CLD Final Plat 2024-38, a request to approve a final plat in District MPD on about 11 acres, generally located at the northeast corner of Northwest 95th Terrace and North Line Creek Parkway, creating 45 lots and 5 tracts to allow for a detached residential development. Staff recommends approval with conditions.
Okay, any questions from the commissioners regarding docket items C2, C3, C4, or C5? All right, with that, let's open it up for any public testimony. If there's anybody out there that would like to speak regarding the open consent agenda items, please come forward or raise your hand using the Zoom feature and you'll be called upon.
There are no hands raised online.
All right, we'll close public testimony then. I'll take a motion, please.
Chair Crowell, I move to approve consent docket items C2, C3, C4, and C5 as stated in the docket.
Second.
Okay. Got a motion and a second for approval of docket items C2, 3, 4, and 5. Margaret, can you take roll call on that motion, please?
Perkin,
Aye.
Crowell,
Aye.
Enders.
Aye.
Forbes,
Aye.
Passick.
Aye.
Morel,
Aye.
Padilla.
Aye.
All right, looks like the motion passes then. With that, let's go to our regular docketed items, beginning with those that want to continue to a future date.
Continuances begin with docket item number 6, case CD CPC 2025-111, a request to approve a de-annexation of approximately 4.5 acres, generally located at the northwest corner of Northeast 104th Street and North Church Road from the corporate limits of the city of Kansas City, Missouri, to permit subsequent annexation by the city of Liberty, Missouri. Staff recommends continuance off docket with fee. Docket item number 7 is case CD CPC 2025-175, a request to approve a major amendment in District UR to allow for an event space on about 9 acres generally located on the northeast corner of East 63rd Street and Bushman Drive. Staff recommends continuance without fee to March 4th, 2026. Docket item number 8 is case CD SUP 2025-39, a request to approve a special use permit to allow for used vehicular sales in District B3-2 on about 0.6 acres, generally located at the northeast corner of East Bannister Road and Holmes Road. Staff recommends continuance without fee to March 4th. Docket item number 9 is case CD SUP 2025-45, a request to approve a special use permit in an urban transit corridor within the Prospect Corridor overlay to allow for an event center on about 0.7 acres, generally located at the southeast corner of Euclid Avenue and East 12th Street. Staff recommends continuance with fee to February 18th. Docket item number 10 is case CD CPC 2025-194. A request to approve a major amendment to a previously approved development plan to expand an auto dealership use in District B4-1 on about 5.28 acres, generally located at 9131 Northeast 81st Street. Staff recommends continuance without fee to March 4th. And docket item number 11 is case CD SUP 2025-47, a request to approve a special use permit to allow a used vehicle sales dealership in a B3-2 zoning district on about 0.271 acres, generally located at 7345 Troost Avenue. Staff recommends continuance without fee to February 18th.
Sarah, did you say number 7 is March 4th instead of February 18th?
Number 7 is March 4th, yes.
Okay. All right, thank you. Any questions from the commissioners? All right, let's open it up for public testimony. If there's anybody that would like to speak regarding continuance of docket items 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, or 11, please come forward or raise your hand using the Zoom feature and you will be called upon.
There are no hands raised online.
All right, we'll close public testimony then, and I'll take a motion, please.
Chair Crowell, I move to continue docket items 6, 8, 9, 10, and 11 as stated in the docket, and to continue docket item 7 without fee to March 4th.
Second.
Motion and a second for continuance of those docketed items. Margaret, can you take roll call on that motion, please?
Perkin,
Aye.
Crowell,
Aye.
Enders.
Aye.
Forbes.
Aye.
Passick.
Aye.
Morel.
Aye.
Aye. Looks like those have been continued. Let's go back to docket item number 1, please.
Docket item number 1 is case CD ROW 2025-37. A request to approve a vacation of all sidewalks in proposed district MPD on about 40 acres generally located within the area known as the Country Club Plaza. I will note that we established a quorum for this case on January 7th of Arkin, Crowell, Enders, Forbes, Morel, and Padilla.
Okay. Good morning.
Morning. Okay. Good morning, Chairman Crowell, fellow commissioners. My name is Matthew Barnes with City Planning and Development with docket item number 1, which is the vacation of public sidewalks within the Country Club Plaza. I'll just give a brief overview of what has been discussed previously, so we can get on to the presentation. The location is generally at 4710 Jefferson Street within the area commonly known as the Country Club Plaza, which is in the 6th District in the Midtown Plaza area plan. Here is just a graphic showing the area where they are requesting the sidewalks be vacated. So they are requesting of all public sidewalks within the proposed MPD district that has been previously heard by you guys. This does not include any sidewalks or right-of-way that is adjacent to Parks Department jurisdiction, so Mill Creek Parkway and Ward Parkway. And this does not include any public streets. Those will remain public, only for the sidewalks. This would give them full control over the sidewalks and allow them to assume responsibility for maintenance and allow them to add planters, benches, public art, etc. Here's just another graphic showing in orange what they are proposing to vacate. And then blue is sidewalks that are not proposed to be vacated. Those are Parks Department property. These are the same utility conditions that we have seen in the previous. Those have not changed or been updated. And then at the January 7th CPC hearing, they had addressed a few of the conditions and concerns that you guys had. Items number 1, 2, 5, 7, 8, and 9 were not addressed, and that you had requested that they address these at this hearing. They have not provided any additional documentation to staff for review at this time. One thing to note, they did propose that condition at the previous hearing. If you guys want to accept that, you'd still need to add that as a added condition since it's not been added at this time. With that, staff's recommendation is approval with conditions, and I can take any questions.
Okay, any questions from the commissioners? All right, let's welcome the applicant then. Good morning.
Morning.
Anything else you'd like to add from the staff report?
Yeah, we do have a quick presentation.
Okay.
As Matthew's pulling that up, I'll introduce myself for the record. Dustin Bullard with Gillen Property Group, Country Club Plaza. Ownership with me, Chris Heron, also with ownership, Roxanne Koch, Postinelli, and Jim McClure, Postinelli. So good morning. Good to see you all again. We will get started. So as Matthew said, from the last meeting, we had a few things that we felt were pending items or direction from you all as commissioners. And so we want to step through those today. So again, these were the several items that we discussed at the last CPC meeting on the 7th, and we'll step through each one of those. So the first one was define lawful activities that would constitute a nuisance within the plaza area. So we have worked with our existing security person and group to work through this. One item I wanted to point out is that several areas within the plaza today are actually privately owned, many of the courtyards and the like, and they function as public space today. And so we don't really see any change in operations with the sidewalk vacation as it relates to this kind of notion of nuisances. CPC currently utilizes private security and KCPD officers to help provide safety patrols and when needed address any violation of existing laws, ordinance, or perceived nuisance behavior. A code of conduct does exist today for Country Club Plaza. And those are posted on signs within our parking garage areas and also publicly posted on the plaza website. The code of conduct sets expectations for behaviors or actions that could violate existing laws, ordinances, or create general nuisances. Currently, that list is tailored to both interior private spaces and outdoor private space. And so some of those that are posted today may not be applicable to what we talk about. But we wanted to say that's been a general operating kind of guideline before we purchased the property and we inherited that list. After continued conversations, we've worked to provide additional information on what might be considered nuisances within those vacated sidewalks. So that's item number 1. Does that work? How do I go next? Perfect. So to give you a little bit more about what might not be accepted within the Country Club Plaza areas, violations of the law, any activities that threaten the safety of the public, including visitors, tenants, or employees, any activity that may cause damage or harm to the property, any activity that disrupts pedestrian flow. So we've talked a lot about pedestrian flow and the importance of people being able to walk and have, enjoyment of this space and a great experience within the plaza. Any activity that would disrupt the legitimate business of the property and its tenants, any amplified sound or violation of existing noise ordinances, which we think is very important as a municipality, you all govern that. And then any professional photography or videography without prior consent from management. That would really be kind of professional TV shoots, commercials, things of that nature. Next. Thank you. So that was item number 1. Item number 2, establish standards and responsibilities for maintenance and upkeep. Again, as it exists today, the plaza is doing a significant amount of private maintenance and upkeep of the existing sidewalks and public spaces throughout the plaza, including snow removal, landscaping, cleaning, trash removal, security, etc. As we dug in after the last Plan Commission meeting, Chapter 56 within your existing Code of Ordinances already has a very robust process and requirements to maintain private property, and we believe continues to be the governing kind of guidepost on maintenance and upkeep. The intent here is, as we've mentioned before, is to streamline the maintenance roles and responsibilities to ensure that we, plaza ownership, are the primary responsibility for maintenance and upkeep within the area, including the potential vacated areas. And then this also, as we have said before, allows us the ability to install benches, trash receptacles, landscape items, enhanced paving material within these potentially vacated areas. Again, all governed by Chapter 56. Item number 5, address good neighbor principles to ensure operations do not displace negative impacts on adjacent properties. This is very important to us, as we've mentioned before. Our core belief is being good neighbors and being collaborative, and we feel like we've done that since we've landed here in Kansas City. So we've had additional meetings and conversations with a host of folks. I wanted to highlight that we have met with one of our adjacent property owners, David Block. We've also met with the Plaza Westport Neighborhood Association since the last meeting. And we've also had multiple conversations and meetings with our private security provider, Metro Public Safety, to better understand from my perspective and Chris's perspective, how are they operating today within these spaces? Again, as we mentioned, we have many areas that seem public but are actually private today. And so we wanted to better understand their standard operating procedures as well. Through those conversations, again, want to highlight that Plaza Private Security is in a role to educate on the code of conduct or violations of any laws or ordinances. They are there to ask for compliance and to educate anything that does arise. If that does not work or they feel like it needs to be escalated, that is escalated to Kansas City Police Department. And that's how we function today, and we do not see any change within there. So our private security will continue to operate as they do today. And then KCPD is the only entity that can remove somebody from property, right? So we're not empowered to remove a person. Again, that would be escalated up to the police department. Number 7, define circumstances for temporary sidewalk closures within the plaza. This is a shopping district. Our focus is people's experience and people walking through, whether that is to visit a store or whether that's to walk their dog or just, walk around to enjoy the plaza. Any sidewalk closure has very negative impacts on our tenants and visitors. So The goal is to always minimize that much as it exists today. At times, we believe the only conditions that could lead to a closure, again, very similar to how we operate today, would be special events, emergencies, construction, or maintenance and repair. Clearly, we are incentivized to do that through planning, through notification, and through a process, so we do not have pop-up closures. That is not anything that we would be interested in seeing. Number 8, address successors and assignments to ensure future owners are bound by and maintain same standards. Again, as we've mentioned in the previous meetings, this would run with the land. It is in our best interest to ensure that these standards are cohesive across the plaza, and any future owner would still be bound by what is outlined and agreed to through this process. And then number 9, clearly define the limits of the public right-of-way, including whether it begins at back of curb or includes the curb. So it does go to the front of curb. As we look at that, we've included 2 examples here, or exhibits, one a section view and one kind of a perspective view. So really edge of building to front of curb as we look at that ground plane to give you a better sense of what we're looking at. And that is incorporated, which I know is not fun to read, but that is incorporated in our legal descriptions from the surveyors that was provided to the city as well. So with that, that concludes my presentation. We are open to questions. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Any questions for the applicant?
Yes. That was really helpful. Thank you very much for putting that together. I think most of my questions are going to be for the applicant around number 1. I think that's the most important one for me in terms of the scope of this project, the legacy that it might have, other existing examples. Right now, so I'll try to do some of the other ones more quickly then. So in terms of temporary sidewalk closures, so number 7, we only have one precedent that's not a great precedent because it's a different scenario, but Westport sidewalks. And so Westport is a different scenario in that the road gets closed along with the sidewalk, and there are, security checks. Is that something that you would ever want to define, that there's never the intent to have security checks? We would never have access points to this space. Clearly, it's a different, when you have 2 intersections, there's only 4 access points in Westport, whereas you all would have to somehow have, 20 plus access points. But when I think about temporary closures, I'm not concerned about the maintenance closure. I'm not really concerned about the special event. I gave the example of, in theory, you could close down an area for a month-long special event, which would be of concern. But I think my concern more so, and again, because it runs with the land, it's not about current ownership. It's about the continuity into the future of whoever might own this. Is there any appetite to somehow say that there's no intent to ever put, or there would never be access points to this public space or to this quasi-public space?
I don't know what that looks like as far as a condition, but our intent would not to have access points or controlled entry. I don't know how that would work, and I think it would be harmful to the property and the public. So I think we're on the same page, Commissioner.
Okay.
It would just be, what does that look like, right? How we work with probably staff to establish something like that. But
in that language, controlled entry is a pretty good terminology to use. So something along those lines would be, maybe we'd have to ask legal about that, but.
Yeah, I like that because I don't see any scenario in which you all would actually want to do that. And what's nice, though, is then as this gets shared out to the community, because I do think this is something that some people, even though it's been in a public meeting 3 times now, I think some people are going to say, this came out of nowhere. How come I didn't hear about it? And now it feels far more defensible for someone to say, hey, what you've seen before is a controlled entry access point scenario. This is a very different scenario. I think that that's helpful. Okay, then one of the other minor ones before getting to number 1, maintenance and upkeep. Appreciate that you mentioned that everything's governed by Chapter 56. I guess this is partially a question for staff. I feel as though that wouldn't necessarily give it any teeth, so like there are plenty of public, there are plenty of, or maybe it's inappropriate. I'm thinking it's maybe not the right fit. There are plenty of scenarios where private property is not upkept to the right level, and the speed at which it gets brought into compliance isn't satisfactory for a place that experiences so much traffic. So if it's a private business park and there's an issue that gets flagged and it gets fixed, the speed at which that might get fixed has a different threshold for what is acceptable when you have thousands of people moving through the space. So something to think about. I don't have a solution, but I would like to have something in there that better represents the high traffic nature of the space. Okay, and then going to number one, because this is, again, my largest concern is about lawful activities and who could and couldn't be allowed, and you illuminated a lot of things. So if I can think of, and you did a good job of outlining reasons that we would, see someone removed from the space, who would be deciding that? Would it be the security guard? Would it be elevated to someone who is an employee of the Country Club Plaza? Who ultimately would make that determination of if someone, let's say, is playing amplified music, because that was something that without permission isn't allowed. If someone does that, is it the first time, the third time, the fifth time? Does the code of conduct already have something laid out? And do you all determine if it's something that is reserved only for you all, or is it something that the security teams that you hire as third party might also be removing someone from the space or banning? As you said, they don't physically remove anyone from the space.
So generally, and Chris may want to chime in on this as well, but generally in a scenario that you mentioned there where we have either a complaint or we notice something that is interrupting your experience or being problematic, and that could be a host of things that we outlined. Sometimes that's very subjective, but a security officer would be called, whether that is a public person or a tenant that's called into security, or whether our staff just notices it through one of their regular security patrols. They're going to approach that individual and they're going to say, hey, this is, we got a complaint, or this is not allowed by the code of conduct. And that's an educational moment to say, could you turn it down a little bit? Could you change your behavior a little bit? Whatever that case may be. And they're going to engage in there in an education opportunity first, and then ask for compliance. If that continues, if that person or whatever does not want to comply or disagrees with that, then they would escalate that up again to the police department for ultimate resolution with the police department. And that would be outside of our control.
And sorry if I missed it, that's already laid out in the code of conduct, or is that process memorialized anywhere that it's kind of an education first, then it's an escalation, then it's a removal?
That's our standard operating procedure today. I don't believe that kind of internal SOP is posted on the website.
Sure. Yeah.
But the code of conduct is.
So the fear that my major fear, which I think I've outlined in the past and I'll outline again, and then hopefully you all can address how this doesn't need to be a fear, is if someone, let's say it's a teen, and maybe it's a serial offender because this is where this teen hangs out and plays, or spends time, and maybe sometimes they're a customer and sometimes they're not. But if they were to be removed from the space, I'm curious if you all ever would have lifetime bans. Is it so as a business owner, which I had brought up last time, we've banned people from our spaces. We've decided that someone's conduct is not okay with us, and we've decided you cannot come into our space, and we'll call the police, and they'll remove you, and then all of a sudden you have a trespassing charge. And the difference with this scenario is, I think about someone who, should that line be breached where you all determine this person is not welcome at this property, is there a timeline for it? Is this lifetime? Does it get passed to the next operator? So let's say that it was a teen who did something that was perceived to be egregious enough or repetitive enough. Can they no longer come to the Plaza Lights with their family? Can they no longer get a job on the Country Club Plaza years later because they had made a mistake that, whether it was warranted or not? I'm just curious, like, how you would think about treating that, because in theory, maybe even that person just lives in West Plaza but uses the streetcar. Do they need to walk up and around to get home now because they are banned from this, the 50 acres or however many acres it might be?
I don't know that we've fully contemplated that specific example, but I think the intent of the code of conduct is to address behaviors specifically that are actively occurring, and to keep those from continuing to occur on the plaza. I don't think it's addressed towards any individual for a extended period of time.
I think that's what I would like the most at this point, based on what we've already provided. We've checked a lot of the boxes, and so now it's figuring out, because that's what I'm most familiar with, and it's a very tough decision when you make those decisions. Sometimes it's not a tough decision, but it's so different when I decide, you know what, this is a coffee shop and you're no longer allowed here, and we've made it clear with that individual and with the police, and they will never come to the coffee shop again with permission. And it's just so different. You know, an indoor shopping mall has the same ability, but no one needs to traverse through an indoor shopping mall. And an indoor shopping mall doesn't have the same feel as the Country Club Plaza, where there are all these other events, gatherings, businesses connected. So that's I think the last missing piece for me that I would want to have somehow contemplated, addressed, for me to feel as though we're treating the uniqueness of this case appropriately.
Yeah, I understand your concern, Commissioner. I was pausing because I don't know how you would actually enforce that. If there was a lifetime ban and you're walking through the plaza, that theoretical, I was getting tripped up on how that would even be enforced, which is why I paused on that. But I wanted to say I do understand your
I didn't want to
perspective
add
there.
more layers to it, but that was my next question is, how do you enforce who's the, it's not the police that are enforcing this. This would be, right, the third party security, a ban?
Well, so when I think of private property, if you think of an office park, to kind of bring it away from a
Sure.
single business, yeah, it's going to be either the landlord or the tenant, or the security. Any one of those might say, hey, this is a person that we've told cannot be here. They, break into cars, or worse, they just make people feel uncomfortable, and we've decided to ban this person because we can ban this person. We're, high secure area. We don't want this person around. And so then, police, depending upon the municipality and the speed at which things are happening that day, might come up and remove that person. And so it is something that there could be a very valid reason that you would want someone not near your property ever, and that you would want that. And depending upon the scenario, police might react quickly to that. And so that's where I was curious about what lawful activities are we going to say this is not acceptable, because it's a line that we haven't had to cross or consider in any other case.
Yeah, I don't know how you do that. It's not going to be anything different than it is today, whether the sidewalks are abandoned or not. Frankly, the streets are still public, so they can walk up and down the street if they want to. So now you're getting into a combination of enforcement, if there's somebody like that, between the owners of the plaza and the Kansas City, Missouri police. I don't know how else you would do that. You still got public,
Yeah, and
private
I
property
understand
there, so
I understand
seems-
the enforcement issue, but for example, if I had been in breach and been, banned from this property, and I wanted to go to the plaza lighting because all my family is in town, and it's, I think it's an awkward situation that I can't go to this property and I have relatives. Now, do I want to risk that? Because I do know that it's something where I might run into someone who does recognize me and say, hey, you're not allowed to be here. So I don't think it's necessarily just about, is this enforceable or not? I still think it has implications regardless. And I guess because it is enforceable.
Any other
That's
questions
all I
from
have.
the commission? All right. Commissioner Morrell, any questions or thoughts?
No additional questions.
Anything else you'd like to add before we open it up to public comment?
No.
Okay, let's go ahead and open it up for public comment. If there's anybody out there that would like to speak regarding docket item number 1, please come forward or raise your hand using the Zoom feature and you will be called upon. Yeah, please come forward.
David Block, representing the Skelly Building and the Plaza Medical Building and the Plaza Skelly CID. So how much time does that get me?
5 minutes.
5 minutes.
5 minutes? Okay. Well, they got longer than 5 minutes.
Well, they're the applicant.
No problem. I'm excited about what's going on the plaza. Our company, Block and Company, has been a Kansas City resident for 80 years. We've been on the plaza for about around 55 years or so, in the mid-50s. And we're obviously very passionate about what goes on the Country Club Plaza, and we're excited about future opportunities for the community, for the plaza, and for obviously greater Kansas City. But we also, based upon the discussion that you all have had here today, we're just stating our concern about our sidewalks. I brought this up before, and that we would like to, and I realize this is for another meeting, but I need to get in the public hearing, that we and the church next door, the Skelly building, the medical building, the Unity Church, and the Chief Sit building would like to get their sidewalks incorporated into a dedication or a conveyance in the same fashion and on the same equal boundaries as what's being afforded by the Country Club Plaza, so we can protect all of the other properties that are immediately surrounding and actually in the middle of some of their properties. And I showed a letter the last time from Unity, and I have, of course, spoken with the owner of the Chief Sit building. They're all on board as it relates to these sidewalks. And I realize this meeting is limited to the sidewalks. We have always been self-proclaimed a good neighbor. And so we want to continue to be a good neighbor. We did have a meeting, as was mentioned, I believe, on the 21st of January with the plaza. And that was a productive discussion, but there are still issues that will need to be ironed out, as in everything, that it takes a little bit of time, and we understand that. So I am here to explain our concern about our sidewalks and moving people along if necessary, security, and so on and so forth, along with these good neighbor principles, which is like the snow removal on the walks and all that. I want to make sure everything is just being done, and the street as well, because I'm not quite clear about who's going to be doing the maintenance on the street. I believe it's not the plaza, it's the city, which is abutting those sidewalks. And then we are also concerned about most importantly, the notice for these meetings is not really, in my opinion, good notice. So, meaning that the mailing, which we have not received, I'm not sure if this is still the December meeting or if it's a January meeting we didn't get, and maybe till after the meeting. The posting of notices, and then first-class mail. I believe that this is supposed to be sent by first-class mail. And then the Daily Record, I don't know if any of you get it. We discussed this last time. If you don't get the Daily Record, try and get it. It does cost money, by the way, but I had a bunch of pretty smart guys who couldn't even figure out how to actually buy and get the Daily Record so we can see what's happening. So that's a pretty poor excuse for notice if that's the way we're doing things. And it's also, I don't know if that's really fair if you have to pay $100 in order to get notice to find out what's going on. And then finally, the sidewalks, we want to be sure that any agreement regarding the sidewalks do not affect any of the abutting sidewalks along those buildings. I wasn't clear under the, and I would expect that it doesn't, but I wasn't clear under the plan that has been delivered here as to whether along the medical building, that sidewalk is being conveyed. I'm sure the applicant can further define that. Also along the church, the Skelly building, but more importantly, the medical building, but all of those buildings, that those sidewalks are not part of the legal descriptions or some of the conveyance by the city. That's kind of it, unless anybody has any questions. I would look into your notice, though.
Okay.
Just one question for you. So your mention of expanding or having some similar conveyance or vacation in front of the adjacent buildings, are you saying that it would be part of the same or conjoined with the same vacation, or are you saying a separate vacation?
I don't want to do anything to delay these folks' application. If it could be added to Super Duper, but I don't want to do anything to delay their progress.
I just mean more along the lines, I mean, in this, something going forward more along the lines of you meeting the same kind of design guideline and all the other things that they're planning to do as well for those.
Well, that would be the good neighbor principles.
Gotcha.
That would be to be determined.
Gotcha.
Because we're separate ownership, all of those properties. So would we want everyone, your neighbor, to design your building exactly the same and have the same
No, of course,
landscaping?
it's more just overall guidelines, right?
Yeah,
So that
yeah,
everything.
there absolutely is guidelines. You
Yep.
bet.
Okay.
Okay. But I do need to understand, I think we all do, is like, where does the sidewalk maintenance stop and where does it begin? And then the city's got some obligations, but I don't know, relative to the streets,
Yep.
but they do the streets on the plaza. So where does that stop and where does that begin when you do this conveyance?
Sure. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
Hi, my name's Tom Davis. I'm on the board of the Plaza Westport Neighborhood Association. We had a productive meeting with the applicant yesterday, and which I would characterize as very positive. One thing that has not been resolved and which has been raised by Mr. Block's recent testimony is that what happens if they don't comply with these good neighbor principles, if they don't comply with the obligation to maintain the sidewalks. We had originally raised a concern about potential reversion to the city, which is a process that they have in the Westport district, and they have a part of their agreement. But that seems to have been dropped in the conjunction of this discussion. We would urge that it be reconsidered because, especially if this is a camel's nose under the tent situation, and we're going to have other property owners around the plaza asking for their own sidewalk vacation. I'll tell you that, in my opinion, Mr. Block's maintenance of his property is subpar, not with the medical building, and some of these other buildings, the history is mixed. And so the level of enforcement that is now lacking, if there's no reversion to the city, if you don't follow these good neighborhood principles or you don't maintain your sidewalks that you've gotten now ownership of, I think needs to be addressed as part of this proceeding, especially if every owner in and around the plaza is going to start asking for the ownership of their sidewalks. Then you are going to have this patchwork of unenforceable standards.
All right, thank you. Anybody else? Anybody online?
There is a hand raised online from Forrestine Beasley.
Okay.
Good morning. Can everybody hear me?
Good morning.
Yeah, morning.
Thank you, commissioners, for taking your time on this application. It is more involved than people may realize. A couple things that have come to my mind that I haven't really heard addressed. The main conversation has been vacating the sidewalk so that maintenance could be better controlled by the property owners. Has there been any discussion for just having a type of agreement for them to do the maintenance without conveying the ownership to them was one of my questions. The other question that came up to mind was they had mentioned chapter 56 this morning, but the thing that I kept wondering about is the curfew ordinance that is in place for all of the entertainment districts. I haven't heard anyone refer to what guidelines are within that ordinance and how that could be applied to this request for the vacation of the sidewalks. Those were my main two things, and my opinion would be to recommend adding your conditions, but not approving of this and putting it into the hands of council to further uh, further deal out and detail what would be covered if this were to move forward. I think that's all I have. Oh, did you need my address? I said my name, but I didn't follow the procedure.
Yes, we do.
Okay,
Thank
1307
you.
Wabash.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good to see you.
Okay.
Anybody else?
There are no other hands raised online.
Okay, so we'll go ahead and close public testimony then. Couple things were brought up during the public testimony. Do you mind addressing those items? Assuming you took your notes.
Yeah, I think to Mr. Block's concerns, I think the biggest piece out of that is we can clarify the only sidewalk vacations that are part of this application are adjacent to property that we own, with the one exception being Commerce Bank, which is right there in the middle, and there's a letter from them as part of the packet that does that. So that clarification there. And then street maintenance was the other piece.
Yeah, I think
I'm not sure what that looks like quite
Yeah, the
frankly.
piece that you talked about today was giving that line as to what's maintained
Yeah.
by the plaza, what's by the street. And that's the front of the curb.
Front of the curb.
Okay. Yeah, so everybody knows that. Okay.
Mentioned snow. Haven't there been times when plaza ownership of the retail center has taken care of the snow for the city in the same way that sometimes the plaza ownership is taking care of landscaping that's actually the city's landscaping?
We do that regularly now, yes.
I think that's what I'm assuming he was referring to. So you all would continue to also do maintenance that is beyond the sidewalks that would be owned, but also the city's streets. You all intend to continue to assist with snow removal, landscaping.
And I think we, in our discussion with Mr. Block, we also talked about further operations coordination to understand kind of where some of these lines may be, very precisely between our properties and how they may extend onto the streets and extend onto the sidewalks. I think in general, what we're talking about is that where our existing property line between our property and say Mr. Block's property occurs, that line would just be extended out through the sidewalk. And then if for reasons like snow removal, it would be extended across the street in that particular case. And in the case where we own property on one side of the street and Mr. Block or someone else owns property on the other side of the street, it would extend probably to the center of the street, but potentially over to the curb.
Okay. What about the curfew ordinance? Any thoughts on that one that was brought up?
I don't think there's any change implied by this, by what's in front of the commission today to how that applies or doesn't apply.
Okay. All right. Anything else for the applicants?
I think the other
Commissioner?
two questions from Mr. Davis were about then if there isn't if certain principles weren't complied with, the reason that you all are not interested in a reversion clause.
So I think that repeatedly, I think we've noted Chapter 56. It does have a substantial amount of teeth in it. It is up to the city as to how they choose to enforce that. The fines go from either $85 a day up to $1,000 a day right now, as stated in the code. So the property owner has every, incentive not to incur those types of fees daily until there's compliance. There is a process. Anybody can file a complaint on that. There has been discussion, as we've discussed in the past, with regard to reversion. I think that, again, those reasons have been stated as to the investment that the property owner would make in that. They would want to comply like any other private property owner, and this teeth that the city has to enforce those property maintenance codes. I know you have staff here today that works closely with the property maintenance and enforcement of that, and he could speak to the teeth that the city has to ensure enforcement.
Anything else you all would like to add at this time? Any other questions from the commission to the applicant or anything?
I was just curious, with the other municipalities you've worked with, what does this vacation look like? That's something I've been very curious, like how have you worked with them to enforce, or just the bare bones, what does it look like with them?
It really just depends on the state law, and different municipalities kind of approach it in different manners.
Mhm.
I've seen this done as long-term leases. I've seen this done as straight vacation, what I call straight vacation, which is what we're working on today with you all. We broached multiple different paths with staff initially on this, and this was the direction that I think the collective group went down. Again, I don't see this operating. This gives us certainty to put the investment in on what we talked about through the MPD and the design guidelines, and really elevate that experience, both from the visual experience and then also just maintenance. This puts the onus on us, and there's no pointing fingers of, well, city, why haven't you done that? And ownership, why haven't you done that? So I think these are really good tools to allow for that and really create that kind of elevated look and feel within a place. And so the mechanism can look different depending on the municipality. But generally, these guidelines and these questions and the thoughts and conversations we've had are very similar to what I've experienced in other municipalities. Hopefully that answers your question.
Yeah, anything?
No, I think from the last meeting that we have, it seems we have more information, and it's a little bit more clear on your guidelines and what you're doing. So I think I'm good.
Thank you.
Yeah. Commissioner Morrell, anything you want to ask?
No, I don't have any additional questions. I think the information that was presented answer a lot of the questions that we previously had. So,
Okay, thank you. All right, with that, let's close testimony and speak amongst the commissioners. There's nothing to discuss. I'll take a motion.
Yeah, a few things to discuss. Yeah, appreciate the applicant taking the time on this. I had stated earlier I hadn't felt good moving it beyond here without addressing some things. I can't imagine Oak Park Mall, Town Center, Legends not having control over the spaces between their units. It makes sense to me in that sense. And this is a connected pedestrian network. So it's just a unique space that I feel deserves the right attention. So appreciate you all being patient with us and going through those things. I am curious with how to condition these things so that we can move this along to the next step without, in an ideal world, we would have clean conditions written already, and we would have been able to absorb that and come forward with conditions. I think I'm comfortable asking staff to come up with the conditions based upon the presentation as we saw it today, if that's acceptable, and then adding to it. Does that seem like a good path forward?
If you're comfortable with that.
Okay. And then the things that I'm curious or that I'm interested in adding is the note that there will not be any public checkpoints or controlled entry to the space. And then I think the last thing to discuss as a commission, which Ms. Beasley brought up is whether we pass this along with a recommendation or without a recommendation. Based upon some of the conversations that we've had about vacationing property, I could see it make more sense to pass along without a recommendation, but with the conditions. But I'm curious what you all think as to whether you want to provide a recommendation of approval or just provide no recommendation.
To me, I think we've heard enough testimony. We've had a lot of conversation about this and and everything that's been stated. To me, I think should be recommended with approval. That's my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, I've definitely been on the fence for, a couple of the meetings, but just the consistent steps forward have kind of pushed me to approve it, with conditions and all those additional conditions as well. I think that, yeah, I think it deserves that.
I agree with that too.
Yeah, same.
Yeah.
I would like to add the checkpoints, but on that, like how are you thinking about that? Like, so for example, if you have a private event later on, like, and there is a fee to entry.
That's different. That's a special, that'd be a special
Always
event.
special.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Because that will be a checkpoint, right?
I mean, when they close the streets off for the art fair, I mean, those have checkpoints, don't they?
No.
No?
Something for them to think about. And to be clear to the applicant, the conversation about recommendation is based upon different perspectives of what the commission can approve in terms of vacations in general, not particular to your application necessarily. Okay. Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah. Now that you brought the art fair, what if, I'm guessing you're not trying to later on make it, trying to close it and charge entry fee or anything like that?
No.
You also have to add, I mean, you're also getting a permit to close down the streets as well. So it's not just private, you're also going public. So it's a mix there. So it's a little bit different.
Right.
All right. I'm gonna make a motion that can then certainly be revised, but I move to recommend approval of docket item number 1 with stated conditions and then adding conditions that are based upon the 10 items that had been outlined in the previous meeting and this meeting, based upon the presentation made today by the applicant, and adding specifically that there will not be any public checkpoints or controlled entry to the space, noting specifically the understanding that this is a part of the city's pedestrian network and it's intended to maintain it as such. So adding that clause that this is a part of the city's pedestrian network and it's intended to maintain it as such. And so the hope with that motion would be that the applicant will work with city staff so that when this goes to city council, there's a recommendation of approval with these conditions addressing those 10 different items.
Second.
Okay, so I've got a motion and a second for approval of docket item number 1 with conditions and adding the testimony and discussion that was provided by the one making the motion. So Margaret, can you take roll call, please?
Arkin,
Aye.
Crowell,
Aye.
Enders.
Aye.
Forbes,
Aye.
Morel,
Aye.
Padilla.
All right.
All right, looks like the motion passes. Thank you. Appreciate your patience and doing this project.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
All right, let's move to docket item number 2.
Docket item number 2 is case CD ROW 2025-42. A request to approve a vacation of public right-of-way in District UR on about 0.8 acres, generally located at the southwest corner of Highway 9 and Northwest Briarcliff Parkway.
Okay. Good morning, Matthew Barnes again with docket item number 2, the vacation of public right-of-way for Darby Townhomes. Okay. The site is generally located at 1700 Northwest 35th Street within the 4th Council District. This is north of the river. This is Highway 9 there running across the screen there. This is within that Briarcliff Wynwood area plan. As you can see, the city boundary is there on the left side of the screen where it goes into Riverside. And we were talking about this area highlighted in yellow. The kind of X-shaped cross in the middle is the right-of-way that is existing. It's a paper street, not currently constructed. Here's just a view of that site as you enter into Kansas City. It is elevated higher than Highway 9. This is looking southeast, and this is kind of looking north from Northwest Toolson Road. You can see the site is very much not developed. They do have a plan to develop this with a townhome site. This was originally platted as the Wilson Ritchie addition. They are proposing to vacate the public right-of-way and the underlying plat. When they come through with when they start construction and do their final plat, they'll replat this land.
What's the date on that? Just curious.
Sold.
Can't see it. I can get back with you on that, but it's
I was just
it's
curious.
old.
19 teens, I think.
Yeah.
Don't say 1970.
Yeah.
Older than that.
Obviously, none of this had ever really came to fruition, and the area around it's been redeveloped over the years. So kind of on the right side of the screen is what they're proposing. This is the Darby Townhomes. It is within both jurisdictions, but within Kansas City, Missouri, we have townhomes facing Missouri Route 9, and then internal circulation. All those are private roads. This does not include any vacation of sidewalks on the perimeter or any public right-of-way that's currently improved. But their townhome unit will have 32 units on all private streets. There are private utility conditions of AT&T, Evergy, Spectrum Charter, and Spire. All typical conditions were, relocate or retain easements. And there are two utility conditions from the city. One is that streetlights that are adjacent are not affected or removed. The other one that we need to update as part of the motion is that the applicant shall retain all utility easements and protect facilities as required by KCMO Water Services. No structure shall be built over the easements. The condition, as in the condition report, says Spectrum Charter. So there's two Spectrum Charters, but this one should have said KCMO Water Services. So there should be one by each. With that, staff recommends approval of conditions, and I can answer any questions.
Okay, thank you. Any questions for the applicant or city staff? Commissioner Morrell, anything?
No additional questions.
Okay. Let's welcome the applicant then. Good morning.
Good morning. My name is Kiana Muhammad. I'm with Olson at 1301 Burlington Street. The site has been pretty undeveloped for a while, and with this approval, we will move forward with the new development as planned, and we thankful for your consideration.
Okay, any questions for the applicant? All right, let's open it up for any public testimony. If there's anybody out there that would like to speak regarding docket item 2, please come forward or raise your hand using the Zoom feature and you'll be called upon.
There are no hands raised online.
All right, we'll close public testimony. Anything else you'd like to add at this time?
Do not.
Okay, I'll take a motion, please.
Chair Crowell, I move to approve docket item number 2 with conditions.
Second.
Do we need to modify the one condition?
Yes, modifying to
Okay, can you amend your motion, please?
Yeah. Can you help me with the modification?
Yes, changing the condition that says Spectrum Charter to KCMO Water Services, where they retain and protect facilities and do not build over the water mains.
Chair Crowell, I move to approve docket item number 2 with conditions, amending the condition per Matthew Barnes's statement.
Second. Okay, got a motion and a second for approval of docket item number 2. Margaret, can you take roll call on that motion, please?
Perkin,
Aye.
Crowell,
Aye.
Enders.
Aye.
Forbes,
Aye.
Cassock.
Aye.
Morale,
Aye.
Padilla.
All right, thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank
Ready for docket item number 3, please.
Docket item number 3 is case CD CPC 2025-190, a request to approve an amendment to Chapter 88, the Zoning and Development Code by repealing Section 88-255 SC Shoal Creek District and enacting in lieu thereof a new section of like number and subject matter for the purpose of providing consistency with the recently updated Shoal Creek Community Master Plan.
Good morning.
Good morning, Commissioners. Genevieve Consmith, City Planning and Development. One moment while I get my presentation pulled up. All right. As stated, docket item number 3 is a zoning code text amendment related to section 88-255, which is the Shoal Creek Special Purpose District. This all should look and sound familiar as a couple meetings ago we talked about the adoption of the Shoal Creek Master Plan book for the Shoal Creek area. So this is the Shoal Creek District outlined in yellow. And then this is the book that was then approved by City Council after presented to this commission. And again, it just lays out the neighborhood areas and the vision for development for the Shoal Creek District and identifying permitted uses in their own sort of sub-zoning categories. So the book, as you saw in the last presentation, is fairly extensive. It has a lot of standards related to use, design, overall intent and vision for the entire district. And so in some of the previous amendments to that, past staff basically just copy and pasted word for word what was in there into the zoning code. But, you know, we see as things change over time that the book is meant to be that reference with all the details, and the zoning code is more of guiding you to reference that master plan book. So there's this text amendment is really, I would call it some cleanup in section 88-255. And so we mostly removed things that are either already in the book or were amended in the book. So this isn't to say that these regulations or standards are gone. They just live somewhere else, and we're removing the language from this section of the code. So the main changes are removal of specific application submittal requirements. So now in the Community Master Plan book, we reference to the director's minimum submittal requirements for all application submittals. So we removed some of the language that was also in the code about that. Removal of the list of permitted uses. As you saw, there's a handful of those MPC specific zoning districts in SC, and each one of those has all their own permitted uses, again, in the book. So we took out that list to avoid any conflict or confusion. Removal of a section that was called performance standards, which some are actually outside of the jurisdiction of Chapter 88. In the staff report in the red line draft, you can see specifically things related to fire and flammable materials, nuisance, noise, discharge into public sewers. So we just took out that specific language from this section. And of course, all of the other city codes apply to any development in the district. And then removal of language related to public improvement requirements, as again, that is elsewhere in the code or specifically in the master plan book. And then really similar to the first one, just removal of some specific language around application requirements for final plans and final plats, which is all specified again in the community master plan update now. We did hold a public engagement meeting There's a handful of interested developers, engineers, just a couple of questions, but no major concerns. So with that, staff is recommending approval, and I can take any questions.
Okay, thank you. Any questions for city staff? All right, let's move it. Let's see, we don't have an applicant. You are the applicant. Let's move it to public testimony. If there's anybody out there that would like to speak regarding docket item 3, please come forward or raise your hand using the Zoom feature and you will be called upon.
There are no hands raised online.
Okay, we'll close public testimony then. Anything else to add?
I think that's everything. Hopefully we won't have to do this again, because it'll say, look at the book, and we'll just look at the book.
All right. All right, with that, we'll close testimony and I'll take a motion, please.
Chair Crowley, move to approve docket item number 3 without conditions.
Second. There's a motion and a second for approval of docket item number 3. Margaret, can you take roll call on that motion, please?
Merkin,
Aye.
Crowell,
Aye.
Enders.
Aye.
Forbes.
Aye.
Hassick.
Aye.
Morel.
Aye.
Padilla.
Aye.
All right, looks like the motion passes. Thank you very much. Let's move to docket item 4.
Docket item number 4 is case CD SUP 2025-41. A request to approve a special use permit for the expansion of a school use in District R5 and B1-1 on about 14 acres generally located at 3301 East 75th Street.
The applicant available?
What am I looking for online? Dina?
There should be a couple of people. They told me some people are going to be in person and some people are going to be online.
I don't have any hands raised online. If the applicant, JC
JC.
Croninwet,
Yes.
I'm going to promote you to panelist. Okay, we have JC online.
We're supposed to be representative from the school available.
Yeah, good morning, everyone. I think there should be a member from the school district, the architect, and owner's rep are all there. Are they not in the room?
No.
Okay, I'm gonna give them a call real quick if that's okay.
Well, your case is up. Let's go ahead and move on to the next one, to number 5, and we'll come back to 4.
Okay. Docket item number 5 is case CD CPC 2025-201. A request to approve a rezoning for 2 parcels at the northeast corner of Northwest Skyview Avenue and Northwest 126th Terrace from AGR to R80 on about 99 acres generally located at 12727 Northwest Skyview Avenue.
Good morning.
Good morning, Hal Gustafson, Development Management. Give me 1 second to share my screen and we'll get going.
Yeah, took you by surprise, huh?
A little bit.
I'm sorry? No, the applicant wasn't available, so they're getting in touch with them, so that's on hold and we're going to number 5. Okay. Okay, we're doing number 5 first.
Well, this one can be quick, so we'll move forward. This is docket item number 5, 12727 Northwest Skyview Avenue rezoning. It's CD CPC 2025-201. The site is located in the Northland in a undeveloped agricultural area. It's off of Northwest Skyview, Northwest 126th Terrace, and North Lamela Road. This is a rezoning from ag residential to R80 with no area plan amendment. Just a quick case timeline. The ordinance was already introduced to council for the rezoning of the site on December 11th, but was held till February 10th due to needing to go through this entitlement process. So that's why we're hearing this today. The property owners would like to split the lot into 4 separate lots, each less than 30 odd acres. This is consistent with state statutes and our subdivision processes. You can do that by deed. The only thing necessary for this was a rezoning to an R80 because ag residential lots have a minimum for detached houses for 40 acres. Since they're splitting it into 4 lots, it's supposed to be just 4 houses. And they couldn't do that in an ag residential zoning district, hence the rezoning to R80. With that, staff recommends approval. I can answer any questions.
Okay, any questions from the commissioners to city staff? Let's welcome the applicant then.
Mr. Chairman, members of the commission, my name is Patricia Jensen with the Rouse Fretz Law Firm with offices located at 801 West 47th Street. I believe David Barth is on via Zoom, Sarah.
Yes, he is.
And so my client is David Barth, who owns this property under the name Skyview Terrace LLC. He is present with us, and this is a very simple request. All it is to rezone the property from AGR to R80, which is consistent with a lot of the zoning in the area. In fact, the property to the south is zoned R7.5, which allows more dense single-family commercial or single-family development. I don't have anything further to add. I believe there's a neighbor in the audience. I don't know if they have anything to add. And I can talk about his concern. He asked me if 128th Street is being connected through this property, and my answer is no, at such time as the city feels that it and has funds available to extend the street. The city can certainly use its power to condemn for public improvements.
Is there platted right away through there now?
No. No.
Okay.
David, do you have any additional comments?
He's an attendee. He didn't
Oh.
raise his hand, so.
David, you need to raise your hand.
Promote him to panelist.
Anyway, we can move forward.
All right, any questions for the applicant? All right, let's open it up for any public testimony. If there's anybody out there that would like to speak regarding docket item number 5, please come forward or raise your hand using the Zoom feature and you'll be called upon,
There are no hands raised online.
including David.
Well, no, David
Oh,
is
yeah.
rejoined
Okay.
as panelist, but there are no hands raised for public
Gotcha.
testimony.
Yeah,
Unless you
All right.
want to hear from him.
no,
Okay.
unless he's got something he wants to add. We'll go ahead and close public testimony then. Anything else to add?
No.
Okay. With that, we'll close testimony and I'll take a motion, please.
Chair Crowley, move to approve docket item number 5 without conditions.
Second.
Got a motion and a second for approval of docket item number 5. Margaret, can you take roll call on that motion, please?
Arkin,
Aye.
Crowell,
Aye.
Enders.
Aye.
Forbes,
Aye.
Hassick.
Aye.
Morale,
Aye.
Padilla. Oh,
Stepped down.
sorry.
Yep. Well, it looks like the motion passes. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right. Let's move back to docket item number 4.
Docket item number 4 is case CD SUP 2025-41. I won't reread it. It's already read into the record.
Genevieve Conn-Smith, City Planning and Development, docket item number 4 is a special use permit for the proposed Success Academies at Satchel Paige Elementary School, or the former Satchel Paige Elementary School at 3301 East 75th Street. Site is located in the southern portion of the city, just east of Highway 71. And here we have the site outlined in yellow. Still has the former elementary school building on site. And really the proposed changes to the site are mostly improvements to the exterior areas, mostly vehicular drives and internal pedestrian connections. So this parking lot up off of 75th Street is existing with this circular drive here and the additional impervious surface, which is why the special use permit is required, is to construct the drive to the rear portion of the building, construct additional parking lot, and as stated, other improvements for play areas and walkways. Other than that, there aren't too many changes proposed to the outside of the existing building besides improvements here and there and additional signage, which will be heard at BZA next week. And they will also make some decisions on some requested variances for bicycle parking and the size of proposed signage. But again, this will all look fairly similar to what's already there. Here's the proposed signage. There'll be the entrance to the middle school, high school will be on the north side of the building, visible off of 75th Street. And the entrance to the elementary school section will be on the southern part of the building where that new parking lot will be located. And then I just have a few street views of the site. So again, this parking lot is existing and there'll be some additional drives constructed and the parking lot in the rear. And then another view from the other existing entrance. And then up at the corner, you can see there's a lot of grade change here. And then this is from the eastern property line. So this will all, the building won't change drastically. And with that, I can take any questions. Staff is recommending approval with conditions. And again, will be heard at the Board of Zoning Adjustment for additional granting of variances.
All right, thank you. Any questions for city staff? Commissioner Morrell, any questions?
No questions.
All right, let's welcome the applicant. Hello.
Good morning. Apologies for us being late. We were out in the hallway. Shannon Jackson, the Officer of Bond Planning and Construction for Kansas City Public Schools, and Shelley Ulmer with DLR Group is here with me. I just wanted to say thank you to all the voters who made this and many other projects possible. This is the first special use permit that you will see several others coming of projects that are possible because of the voters approving the general obligation bond. Just with this particular project, this is going to be the combination of our two alternative programs. They're currently at two different older sites. So that additional drive allows us to have those separations of the entrances. That was really important for those school communities. So excited to see this kicked off along with some other projects that we're doing this summer with general obligation bond. So if you or community members have questions, feel free to ask us. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Any questions for the applicant? I think it's a great project and a good start on the GO bond, so congratulations and looking forward to seeing all these come through here. With that, let's open it up for any public testimony. If there's anybody out there that would like to speak regarding docket item 4, please come forward or raise your hand using the Zoom feature.
There are no hands raised online.
All right, perfect. We'll close public testimony then. And anything else to add? You've seen all the conditions and okay with those? All right. Take a motion then.
Chair Crowell, I move to approve docket item number 4 with conditions.
Second.
Motion and a second for approval of docket item number 4 with conditions. Margaret, can you take roll call on that motion, please?
Lincoln,
Aye.
Crowell,
Aye.
Enders.
Aye.
Forbes,
Aye.
Passick.
Aye.
Morrell,
Aye.
Padilla.
Aye.
All right, looks like the motion passes then. Thank you very much.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Yep.
We'll
good
see you
luck.
again in a couple weeks.
All right. I think that takes us through all of our docketed items. Anything else to come before the commission?
Not for today.
Any training opportunities coming through?
Yes, we have talked to Water about having a training. We thought this docket would be a little bit longer, so we're gonna get that on an upcoming docket. And then we have another possibility that that we're also looking at for later this spring. So
Okay, very good. Anything else? All right, with that, motion to adjourn. Thank you.
Okay.